When it comes to how the government of the People's Republic of China works, people generally know not that much. I mean, we all know who Xi Jinping is, and we all know how well China tends to rank on the various democracy indexes, but how exactly is the Chinese government structured? How does it work? How do they get stuff done? Like, the US has a president and a Congress and all that, while the UK has a prime minister and a parliament and all that stuff, but as you might suspect, China has a very different political system. So, what does this all look like in China? This video was brought to you by Endel. China's government is classified as a unitary one-party socialist republic. Now, let's unpack this for a bit of context. A unitary state is a state where political power lies first and foremost in the national government, as opposed to federal states, whose political power comes from being a union of different subnational entities. Essentially, power is distributed from the top down rather than from the bottom up. If you know something about international politics, think of maybe the UK as an example of a unitary state and the US or Germany as examples of a federal state. Oh, by the way, because a lot of people commented this on my European microstates video from a year ago, state can refer to a country and a type of subdivision. I really hate the practice that I like to call knowledge shaming, but I also seriously can't believe how many people seem to miss this. Anyway, one party is essentially what it says on the tin. One party's in charge, and only one party realistically can be in charge. That doesn't mean there aren't actually any parties aside from the Chinese Communist Party though. There are actually quite a few. However, the CCP holds a monopoly over true power within the country. Socialist? Well, that's an argument with Ben Shapiro that I'm not really in the mood for. And finally, Republic is also a convoluted term that someone else, possibly named JJ McCullough, could make a whole video about. And that you could even watch once this video's over. China's government is based in the northern Bei capital, Jing. In order to fully understand the whole system though, we need to understand not just the structure of the government itself, but also that of the Chinese Communist Party, as all institutions in China, from the national level all the way down to those serving individual villages, ultimately report to the party. The title of General Secretary of the Communist Party and President of the People's Republic of China are different titles. However, given the CCP's dominance over government, these are generally held by the same person at any given time. Starting at the top, Xi Jinping, as of this video's writing, currently fills both the aforementioned roles, working alongside the 7-member Standing Committee of the Politburo. These other 6 members, while in practice under the authority of Xi, still play an important role in national politics. The Politburo, a Soviet-style portmanteau for political bureau, is the main decision-making entity of the party, largely for the purposes of overseeing the party's decisions. The Politburo's members consist of the party's 25 top members, 7 of whom of course form the Politburo Standing Committee. These members are generally allies of Xi Jinping, and many also hold key roles in regional governments or the military. Xi Jinping, however, is merely the head of state, with the head of government being Premier Li Keqiang. As such, he is the head of the State Council, also known as the Central People's Government, a 35-person body filling the same role as that of a cabinet, with many of its members in charge of one of 26 different constituent departments. These departments include ministries, such as those for foreign affairs or transport or commerce, though also including the People's Bank of China, the National Audit Office, and the 3 commissions on development and reform, ethnic affairs, and health. The State Council, however, is often understood as one of the 3 branches of the People's Republic's government, alongside the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army, led indirectly by the CCP. The PLA is under the control of the Central Military Commission, itself part of the Communist Party. No guys, you'll never guess who the chairman of the Central Military Commission is. The legislative body, equivalent to a parliament or congress, is the National People's Congress. The NPC holds nearly 3,000 seats, 2/3 of which are held by the Communist Party, with the other third being reserved for technical experts and representatives from any of 8 other political parties. However, these parties do not serve as the opposition, and must ultimately submit to the leadership of the Communist Party. While in theory the NPC votes on policies put forth by the Politburo, in practice their approval is something more of a rubber stamp. The NPC, however, only meets in full to pass legislation during a 2-week period every year, and thus most of the legislation on a given day is passed by the Standing Committee, elected from the members of the NPC. Although considerably smaller, this body still has 175 seats, which actually seems a little weird considering it's the Standing Committee. Now here's an interesting fact. China does actually do elections, though not exactly in the way democratic countries do elections. So how do these elections work? Find out after a brief but hopefully funny word from our sponsor. We've all been there before, trying to sleep or relax or focus on work, but it, to use the scientific term, just ain't happening. Maybe you're trying to go to sleep so you can wake up early tomorrow, but you live right over a busy street in Berlin and... Or perhaps you need to really sit down and work on something, but... Hey, look at me! Look at me! Don't you want to see what all your friends are up to? Come on, just a little double tap. Or maybe you have just survived yet another typical day in the 2020s and you just want to relax before you learn about the next thing the world has to throw at you? Then perhaps Endel is the product for you. Endel is an app designed to bring you soothing, personalized soundscapes to help you sleep or relax or get actual work done. But this isn't just your run-of-the-mill playlist selection. Endel takes into account everything from the time of day to the weather to your heart rate if you have an Apple Watch to best decide what kinds of soundscapes you need at that moment. Endel has been proven in scientific studies to work even better than traditional playlists, or even my own video, ASMR to help you sleep, reading the entire constitution of Micronesia. The first 100 people to download Endel, via my special little link at the top of the description, will get a free week of soothing soundscapes. And now, time to learn about how Chinese elections work. Those who are members of the Chinese Communist Party, encompassing a membership of around 90 million, are able to vote for their local People's Congresses. From there, those elected to local People's Congresses vote for those to serve in higher levels of People's Congresses, with the National People's Congress eventually electing the State Council and the President, making for a very hierarchical system indeed. This doesn't mean just anyone can make it to Beijing though, as the candidates who can run are subjected to intense scrutiny by local election leaders. China is divided into 31 subdivisions, consisting of 22 provinces, 4 municipalities, basically cities on the same level as provinces, although slightly different, and 5 autonomous regions, with the addition of the 2 special administrative regions. The governors of the provinces and the autonomous regions, as well as the mayors of the municipalities, are appointed by the national government, with the consent of the NPC, though Hong Kong and Macau are allowed to choose their own chief executives, within reason. Provinces are led first and foremost by a provincial committee, led by a CCP committee secretary, alongside the province's governor. While these two offices are thought to be more or less on the same footing, the secretary is, more often than not, the de facto highest ranking person in any given provincial government, with the governor right behind. As some of these provinces of course can rival countries as big as Japan and Mexico in terms of population though, logically they are divided into cities, counties, and autonomous prefectures. The 5 autonomous regions are essentially special subdivisions for non-Han ethnic groups, those 5 including Tibet for the Tibetans, Xinjiang for the Uyghurs, Inner Mongolia for the Mongolians within China, Ningxia for the Hui, essentially Chinese-speaking Muslims, and Guangxi for a group known as the Zhuang, who speak a Thai Kadai language, more similar to Thai. These regions generally hold certain autonomy when it comes to local government legislation. Unfortunately, however, these regions, most infamously the first 2 listed, are also infamous for the human rights abuses that have been inflicted against their main ethno-religious groups. Something I really can't avoid at least mentioning, if I'm to remain neutral. Back in Beijing, the National People's Congress meets in a building known as the Great Hall of the People, on the western side of Tiananmen Square, the same place where the National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party takes place every 5 years. The Congress meets over a roughly 1-week period in October or November in a year ending in 2 or 7, and is where top leaders meet to discuss important policy changes, approve membership of the Central Committee, and a whole bunch of other nerd stuff that affects the leadership of one of the most powerful countries in the world. The last time I covered the structure of a country's government about a year ago, wait, it was over 2 years ago? My god, this COVID time. I swear it literally feels like we're just starting 2021. Anyway, 2 years ago, I talked about the government of Germany, and this one definitely posed a few more challenges than that one, not just due to China's size or how differently its government works from Western governments, but also the fact that China is a lot more controversial than Germany. Nowadays, at least. Particularly in knowledge to all the recent headlines I'm sure you've come across. As I intend for my videos to be as apolitical as humanly possible, though still describing things as accurately as I can, this video is merely intended to be an overview of the basic structure of how China's government and the Chinese Communist Party work. And to that, I hope I was able to at least help you understand the whole topic on a bit of a deeper level than before.